Storm of Doom!
Welcome back, everybody, to Storm of Doom's page. Today we are going to do a Symbiotes versus the Inhuman slash Furry Coulson type team. This is for a war battle that I have done recently for the alliance that I'm currently in, so that they can see the strategic attack order that I chose for this. I do believe this will help you guys out greatly. I will explain why I attack first and who I'm attacking, and we should be good to go. Alright, everybody, so in order to get started with this battle, it is important that you check your team power and the opponent's power before starting. As you can currently see here, I have it boxed out in red, and I am punching down 119k. You only need 36k to punch down on this team, so it is definitely going to be overkill. If you're unsure about what the punch down or punch up is, depending on what team you are battling, you can always go into the bot channel. I'm not sure if your alliance will have it or not, but I definitely recommend getting it or using it or finding a Discord, MSF, Marvel site that has it, that you can actually be able to get that information for when you're doing war. If you do not have your MSF team set up or your roster set up into that system, you can still put it into the bot. It'll give you a percentage of what the punch up or punch down will be. In this case, it will be a punch down of a 7%. If you do have your bot set up with your roster, then it's nice because it gives you the power that is needed to battle that team, and it also gives you your current power. So if you're too weak, it will tell you that. It'll be red out, and if you obviously can battle, it'll be in green. And so I definitely recommend setting that up, because then you won't have to worry about doing any math, and then you'll be good to go. So let's get into the actual battle. Alright, so now we're going to start with the attack order here. Carnage is going to go after Crystal. Crystal is the main one we want to try to get out first. SSM is going to use his special, and Scream is going to use her special. Anti-Venom's going to use his ultimate, and they're just going to try to beat her up, try to get as much speed on here as possible. Then Black Bolt takes out my SSM, so I only got to use him once, and Scream is going to try to go after Crystal as well, but her stealth is still on. But we were able to take out Nick Fury right away after that. And then after he's down, now we're just going to target Black Bolt, because Crystal's still stealth, and there's no point in trying to go after anybody else at this point. And so we're just going to keep pounding at Black Bolt to get him out. Anti-Venom is going to try to regenerate everybody again. Venom took out Black Bolt finally. And now we're going to go after Coulson, take him out. And Scream does her little double tap. Carnage does his double tap and was able to take both Crystal and Coulson out at the exact same time. And now we just have Yo-Yo left for this. So now we can just pound away at them and just get her as the last one out. So that was a good match to show you. And then I have the battle history as well to show the matchup between the powers of those two as well. Okay, so I wanted to quickly go over some of the attacks from the symbiotes and just some of the opposing team that we just battled there. So I started off with Carnage, and just to quickly go over his abilities. So we started off with his ultimate, and so that attacks the primary target at 500% piercing, and they apply 2% bleed for 2 turns. Bleed is like my favorite attack, so I just try to bleed out the characters as much as I can, and I really like it because it has the 2 turns here. If the primary target is above 50% health, he actually adds an additional bleed for an additional 2 turns, which is really nice. So when you're just starting off this character, that's why the ultimate is a really good one to start with. Then I know I went down on his next turn to his special, and that attacks primary target for 420% damage plus an additional damage per negative effect that is on that character. So he'll automatically do the 420% damage, and whatever negative effects that opponent has, he will do an additional 100% for every one of those, which is even awesomer. He will remove all negative effects from that primary target once he's done attacking, and he will attack all adjacent targets for an additional 250% damage. So anyone next to the primary target, he will hit, which is awesome. All right, so then his primary attack for his basic, I should say, he will do 280% damage, and the primary attack has a negative effect, so it will apply negative effects to that target, and he can chain up to 1 to 2 adjacent targets for 90% damage, and he spreads 2 additional negative effects from that primary target to those secondary targets. So, but it will not spread stun, and if anybody counter attacks it, it'll break the chain, and he won't be able to do those additional effects. For his passive, when on enemy drops below 25% health, the speed bar will actually fill by 30% for the self and all the symbiotes allies, so they actually increase speed. And will heal for additional 10% of the character's max health, so he will do a little bit of healing for that percentage. Alright, so SSM, I only got to really use him once, which is a little disappointing on this one because Black Bolt took him out right away. But I ended up using his special attack, which is his spider slingshot, and that will attack the primary target and adjacent targets for 300% damage. And that will increase any durations of all their negative effects by 1, and he will also apply bleed to each target. So whatever was applied before, they're getting even more. So you can just keep bleeding them out. If I was going to be able to get more chances, his web slime is really awesome. This one, he'll attack the primary target for 340% damage, and then he applies stun, and it attacks all the other enemies for 260%. So it's like an AoE attack, but what you want to do with this, because of the stun, you want to use it on a character that isn't going to die right away. You want to use one that's going to sustain. So if you just want somebody who's like really gonna, like, if Black Bolt would have been a good one to use against, because we could stun him, and that could probably prevent him from trying to use any of his attacks, but it was a little too late on that one. He was already down. So, but what else is nice with this too is he applies slow to all targets for an additional 2 turns. And this attack cannot be unavoidable, and it cannot be blocked. So it's like an automatic attack no matter what. Alright, so then his basic attack, he can, the primary target will get hit with 210% damage. He then also applies defense down for 2 additional turns, and he rebounds a change to 2 adjacent targets for 170% damage. And then he applies defense down on those as well for an additional 2 turns. And that one cannot be countered. So that's really nice. I really like SSM. So he is really meant for the raids in Dark Dimension. That's really what this character was built for. But his passive attack says when a negative effect is applied on an enemy, heal self and all Hero Spider-Verse and Symbiotes allies for 3% of the character's max health. So he will do a little bit of healing and for himself and for his allies. He will also gain 100% drain, and Symbiote allies 100% drain. So he can gain 15% dodge chance, and he gains 30% max health all overall, plus for his allies an additional 30% health as well. So that is a really nice thing. Alright, Scream. I like Scream. I have her beasted out as well. I got really lucky with her. on getting a bunch of stars with her right away as a free-to-play player. So for whatever reason, I just get really lucky with female characters. And I don't know if it's just because I'm a female and my in-game is a female, so it's like must be in the programming or something, but I guess I shouldn't say that because some other females out there probably don't have the same luck I do. But yeah, I get really lucky with female characters for whatever reason. But for her, I started out with Scream's special, and attacking primary targets for 280% damage, clear 2 positive effects, applies offense down, and does a chain for 2 adjacent targets for 240% damage, and clears 2 positive effects, and applies offense down. So, I know I said that really fast. So, does 280 damage, and then applies positive effects, and then applies defense down, and then does that to the adjacent allies or enemies that Scream is attacking. Then her basic attack, she does a 250% damage, and she applies bleed, and she clears a positive effect, chains up to 2 adjacent targets for 200% damage, and applies more bleed, and clears 1 positive effect. And this attack can chain to stealth targets, so this one's really nice if somebody is stealth, but it's a hit or miss because it depends on where she bounces to. If she bounces to the player that is already stealth, it's great because it can knock the stealth off. But if it's not, then it kind of just gets missed, and so it's kind of a hit or miss. So her ultimate attack, she targets for 300% damage, and she applies slow for 2 turns and disrupt for 1 turn. And then she attacks adjacent targets for 250% damage and applies slow for 2 turns and disrupt for 1 turn. So she only does 50% less damage to the adjacent targets, but she still applies slow for 2 turns and disrupt for 1 turn on them as well, which is really awesome. And then she reduces the speed bar for the primary and secondary targets by 30%. So that increases the turn meter then on our team that we're battling on the symbiotes. Her passive, so if she ends up dying, because it says on death of any character, heal all symbiote allies for 10% of character's max health, and then apply speed up for 2 turns. So if she dies, she gives her allies 10%, and she increases the speed for 2 turns, so the turn meter goes up. And if the character has 3 or more symbiote allies, it applies a negative 30% resistance to all the enemies. So now the enemy's resistance goes down. So that's a really good one. Alright, so Anti-Venom. He had a big one, so I had to split him into 2 screens here. But his I started off with Ultimate as well. So I should switch over to this one quick. So it says on turn clear. No wait, that's his passive. My bad. I'm like, wait, that's not right. Yeah, no, his ultimate is this one. It's Deadly Cure. I was like, that doesn't look right. Okay, gain the opposite of all negative effects, including bleed, on the primary target. Attack primary target for 300% damage and 100% drain. And then he gains 2 regenerations, spread 2 random positive effects on self and all non-symbiote allies, spread all positive effects to self-symbiote allies. So, I like this one because he has the 2 regeneration, and then he spreads random positive effects on himself and on all the allies. So it's just really nice to have that one. And then he does some really heavy damage as well, because he does the 300% damage. And then he also does drain on the other, 100% drain on the other. And, it's funny because it includes bleed. It's like, yay, more bleed. His special, he has this clear heal block on all allies. So if anybody got, the little red X that gets above their head, he clears all that for them. He applies immunity to all of his allies, and he heals all allies for 20% of his character's max health. And he will revive a dead symbiote ally with his 60% base health. If there's no symbiote allies to revive, he'll gain 3 ability energies. So this would have worked if Black Bolt wouldn't have taken out SSM. So that was the thing, is that's what prevented him from reviving. Otherwise, this would have worked. Alright, so the basic attack is a primary target for 250% damage, apply bleed, and then opposite of 2 random positive effects to his character to the primary target. Heal the most injured non-summon ally for 10% of his character's max health and clear heal block. And this attack can't be dodged. So he does a nice primary 250% damage. It's not super beasty, but he does apply more bleed, and he does, and the opposite of 2 random positive effects to the character to the primary target. So it's pretty nice for that one. Alright, so his passive that I almost mistakenly for his ultimate here. So his passive is on turn, clear 1 negative effect for the most injured ally that has a negative effect. If that ally is a symbiote, clear 1 negative effect from all the other symbiote allies with a negative effect, and then he gains regeneration. So when this character drops below 50% health, he actually gains evade, which is really nice. So if he drops down, then it's like, that evade is really nice to have. So that one's really good. Alright, so, alright, now we're on Venom. Venom, I started with his ultimate. He attacks primary targets for 230% damage and adjacent targets for 180% damage. So this one's nice because he hits the primary and then he also hits, he bounces off of them and hits the other ones next to him. He applies heal block for 2 turns, so they're not allowed to heal to the primary and adjacent targets. He spreads all negative effects from the primary targets and to all adjacent targets. So they're getting some negative effects to this, but it will not spread stun, but it'll spread all the other ones. Alright, so his special, he attacks primary target for 380% damage, applies ability block, and 3 bleeds for 2 turns. So this one I really like because it's triple bleed, and it's like quadruple, I don't know, what's 6? It's like 3 times 2, so it's 6 bleeds overall, which is nice, to the primary target for 380% damage. Alright, so basic attack here. He has 230% damage, and he applies bleed for 1 turn, and he flips 2 positive effects into negative effects. And this can't be dodged, so he's flipping effects, which is great. I really like that when they do that. It makes it's a pain if it happens to you, but you like it when it does it to the other team. On turn, for the passive, he'll heal for 15% of the character's max health if the health is greater than 95%. Apply defense up for 2 turns and self and all symbiote allies. And then he gains 100% focus if the Spider-Verse character is present. So it's nice that he has a little bit of heal as well for this. Alright, so now I decided to go into kind of the opposite team here and talk about why they were kind of a pain to attack. The reason why we went for Crystal first is because of her passive. Her passive is the character's health full at the start of a match. The first time the character's on Inhuman ally drops below 50% health, she'll heal them for 40% of the character's max health. So normally if you're attacking Black Bolt first and you get him down to like past the yellow or a little more than the yellow where he's like past the 50% mark, she'll heal him. And then it's like all that work you did is like out the window and it's pointless. So most of the time when you're battling this team, you really want to take Crystal out first if at all possible. But since she ended up stealthing on us because of Shield Operative that Nick Fury brought in, we weren't able to take her out. But luckily, because she was stealth, she wasn't able to do her passive onto Black Bolt. So after that, I decided to go after Nick Fury first. Because of his summoning of his characters, where he brings in, I didn't want him to bring any more operatives or securities, and it was just easier just to take him out first, right, or second, I should say. But in this case, it was first because Crystal stealthed, and yeah, so he's pretty beastie when he's like maxed out. So then we knocked him out, and then we went in and we just started heavily hitting Black Bolt and really trying to knock him out because this here is a pain. But he had already taken out our SSM at that point, so then there was no point in like really worrying about this. But this is just something I wanted to let you guys know about if you didn't know, that he will take out your characters and you cannot revive. So if you had a mini Irva in there and you try to revive a character as well, they wouldn't be able to be revived either. So that's kind of annoying. So then we just kind of pounded at him And then once he was down, then we went after Coulson. And Coulson is super squishy. He's really only good in war. He has a lot of war defense, per his abilities. But everywhere else in the game, he really is super squishy and is kind of pointless. He's not good in blitz. He's definitely not good in raids. And as you can see, just in that war, I mean, he was in there, but it's really, he needs to be with his shield allies. So it doesn't really do him any good if I knock out, Nick Fury, because now he doesn't have anybody to really do anything with. So that just made him even extra squishier. So then that he was down. Alright, so then I went after, and then I was able to then knock Crystal out right away because Scream and her stealth removal. So when she hit to knock Coulson, and then she knocked off Crystal right after that bounce. And then I believe it was either Carnage or Venom that was able then to just finish him off, which was nice on that one. Alright, so then Yo-Yo was left standing, and she's a pain, and she is good in pretty much almost anything. The problem is that when she came out, it was really hard to get stars for her. If you're a free-to-play player, they literally wanted you to pay for her. So I'm slowly getting her like super strong, but it's been a process. I've had her forever, and she's still like not where I want her to be. But she clears counters, and so that's a pain. And then her passive, she has this thing where on turn she has a 50% chance to gain evade, and then she also puts that on her allies as well. And then she also has an additional gain 25% chance for dodge. So it's like she's evading and she's dodging. It's like you can never hit her. And the more you have her maxed out, the more of a pain it is to try to take her down. So, but anyways, if you like my videos, I suggest you subscribe and hit like so you can stay in tune for more of my videos to come. I'm going to try to do at least once per week, maybe more, depending on my work schedule. But I will keep you guys posted, and if you guys have suggestions on other videos, I will try to put those in the queue as well to make more. Thanks again for watching, and have a good rest of your night.